A former Marine now works as a foreman on a construction site. When his boss's daughter is kidnapped by human traffickers, he calls upon his old skills and dives into the criminal underworld to find the girl. The film begins with flashbacks of combat in the Middle East. Levon Tate wakes up in the car that now serves as his home, brushes his teeth, and heads to work. He's a foreman for Garcia's company and has a decent relationship with the owner, Joe, and his daughter Jenny. One day, Levon notices some strangers on the construction site. They're harassing one of his workers, and when Levon politely asks them to leave the man alone, they respond with insults and threats. Using whatever tools are at hand and his extensive combat experience, Levon defends the worker. A fight breaks out. When backup arrives, armed, Levon pulls out his stashed shotgun. Things could go very badly for the intruders. The racketeers back off. After work, Levon visits his father-in-law to pick up his daughter Mary. The grandfather is the official guardian, but Levon is allowed occasional visits. The old man doesn't hide his contempt for Levon, reminding him that while he might be good at many jobs, he's a failure as a father. Levon barely holds himself back from hitting him and drives off with his daughter to a diner. Later, Levon visits lawyers to discuss the possibility of getting custody. The wealthy grandfather accuses Levon of having psychological trauma. On top of that, Levon doesn't have a permanent residence. To avoid losing his daughter completely, the foreman rents a rundown shack far outside the city. The conditions are awful, and cockroaches roam like they own the place. That night, Jenny and her college friends go out to celebrate the end of finals at some nightclubs. They don't notice they're being watched by a stranger. Even the bartender is in on it. After Jenny starts to feel unwell from the drinks, two unknown men abduct her as she leaves the restroom. On Monday morning, Levon hears that Jenny is missing. Her father begs him to use his old skills to find her, offering money, but Levon refuses. After work, he heads out of town to visit a former comrade, Ganny, now a blind archer. Ganny senses something is off. Levon asks for advice, but the old friend believes Levon has already made up his mind. He just needs to say it out loud. The Marine returns to the Garcia family and tells his boss he'll find his daughter, no matter what it takes. His first stop is the bar where Jenny was last seen. Levon notices the bartender, Johnny, quietly selling illegal substances and sees that the security cameras aren't even connected. When the bar closes, Levon follows Johnny home, sneaks in, and interrogates him. Johnny refuses to say what happened to Jenny, forcing Levon to escalate. He tortures the bartender in the bathtub, pouring water over him, but Johnny stays silent. The session is interrupted by the sudden arrival of two armed friends of Johnny. Levon takes them down in brutal fashion, searches their bodies, and finds a stash of cash. The men were clearly en route to deliver it to someone. The next morning, Levon keeps watch on the apartment and sees Danny and Vanka, two flashy brothers, arrive accompanied by Vola Kolisnik, a member of the Russian Mafia. After surveying the crime scene and discovering the missing money, Vola calls a special cleaning crew to cover up the shooting. Levon tails Vola's car all the way home. Then, gearing up, he sneaks up to the mansion from the side to set up surveillance. Inside, the Russian is arguing with his wife. When she finally leaves, Levon silently enters the house and pours a hot beverage directly onto Vola's face. Knocking him out, the Marine ties him up and positions him over the edge of the swimming pool. Vola threatens him. He's part of the syndicate, and the syndicate always gets revenge. Levon demands information about Jenny, but Vola says nothing. Realizing he won't talk, Levon dunks him into the pool. Then from the dead man's phone, Levon uncovers a name, Dimmy, a new lead in the investigation. Later, a higher-ranking Mafia figure, the father of the flashy brothers, arrives at Vola's house. After watching the surveillance footage, he orders his sons, Danny and Vanka, to find the man bold enough to lay hands on a member of the syndicate. To track down Dimmy, Levon contacts an old friend in the police. The officer points him to a biker bar called Hattie's, a known front for syndicate deals. Levon heads there and quickly catches the attention of the bar's security. He subtly shows a stack of cash, hinting that he's looking to buy some product. They take him to the private area of the bar, where the owner Dutch is holding court. Suspicious of the newcomer, Dutch sics 4 bodyguards on him. Levon takes them down with brutal efficiency. Recognizing Levon's skills, Dutch calls off the fight. Realizing his guest is a fellow Marine, he admits he once served in the airborne forces himself. Levon proposes a deal. He'll buy a sample with the intention of arranging regular monthly shipments. Dutch names his price and tells him to meet at a nearby cafe the next morning. At the diner, Levon is approached by Dutch's men. In exchange for cash, they give him a phone and tell him to wait for a call with the pickup location. Later, Levon receives the call. Dutch says the product is hidden under his car seat, but Levon has no use for it. It's just another step toward his true goal. He throws the package off a bridge into the river. Dutch informs Levon that to secure regular shipments, he needs to meet the boss in person. He recommends Levon wear a suit. Appearances matter. Dressed in formal wear, Levon arrives at a restaurant where he's greeted by Dutch and Dimi Kolisnik, a relative of the deceased Vola. Dimi checks Levon's fake driver's license and takes his money, handing over a suitcase full of drugs. Later that night, Levon flushes the entire contents down the toilet. Later, Levon goes through the kidnapped girl's social media posts. In the background of one, a suspicious man can be seen. Reviewing the phone he took from Johnny's apartment, Levon finds a selfie of the bartender with that same man. The geotag shows the location as Hattie's biker shop. The Marine heads there to set up surveillance. Security cameras catch him, and the shop's security team calls in syndicate enforcers, led by Vanka and Danny. Realizing he's been exposed, Levon remains calm, jumps on the nearest motorcycle, and rides off. The brothers give chase, trying to shoot him as he speeds away. The pursuit down a rural road ends when Levon's bike slams into a police cruiser. He's held at gunpoint, but it quickly becomes clear that the officers are on the syndicate's payroll. They hand the beaten biker over to the brothers after smashing his face with a rifle butt. Levon regains consciousness in the back of a van, his hands tied, alongside Vanka and Danny. During the struggle that follows, the brothers realize they're no match for him and reach for their guns, only making things worse. Levon disarms them, then shoots the driver cleanly in the head. The van swerves off the road and ends up hanging over a river. After a few hammer strikes, Levon finishes off the brothers with their own pistol, climbs out and pushes the van into the water. Their bodies are later recovered and brought to the morgue so their father can say goodbye. Furious, the gang leader calls a meeting of the syndicate bosses, laying out the grim truth. Some lone maniac has declared war on them and is killing their most loyal men. To handle the situation, the criminals hire two assassins, Carp and Nestor. Meanwhile, in a nightclub, Viper and Artemis report to Dimi about a mishap involving the new captive Jenny. She bit the client, causing financial loss. Dimi threatens to cut off someone's finger if it happens again and orders that the unruly merchandise be eliminated. Soon after, Dimi is approached by the brothers' father along with Carp and Nestor. Assuming Dimi killed Vola, they start a brawl and a shootout in the club. Reviewing surveillance footage, Dimi recognizes a recent customer and shows his fake driver's license. It's enough for the syndicate's hackers to identify Levon's real identity using the photo. After locating Levon's closest relatives, Carp and Nestor pay a visit to his father-in-law. Levon gets a call from school. His daughter hasn't been picked up. Sensing something's wrong, he rushes to the house, only to find it on fire. He drags his tied-up father-in-law out of the flames. The old man blames him for what happened, and in a way, he's right. To keep his daughter safe, Levon takes her to stay with his trusted war buddy Ganny. The comrade agrees to temporarily look after her and allows Levon to borrow weapons from his extensive arsenal, including a golden AK-47. Meanwhile, Jenny's captors are driving her to the woods to kill her. In the car, she throws a hysterical fit in the back seat, causing a crash. Seizing the moment, Jenny escapes. She cuts her ropes using a nearby barbed wire fence and makes it to the road, where she flags down a police car. The officers pick her up and drive her straight to a mansion, home to a syndicate-run casino, where they hand her back to her captors. They were dirty cops. At that moment, the client calls and says he changed his mind. He wants Jenny back after all. Levon infiltrates Dimi's now-closed nightclub, silently taking out the guards one by one. But things don't stay quiet for long. Gunfire breaks out. Dimi grabs his assistant as a hostage, but Levon's well-aimed shot wounds Dimi in the hand. The Marine demands to know from Dimi where Jenny is. The criminal tries to negotiate his life in exchange for the captive's location. Levon takes him along to show the way to the syndicate's casino. Once they arrive, the Marine drags Dimi outside, pushes him into a puddle of swampy muck, and kills him. Meanwhile, Dutch is informed that the buyer he introduced to Dimi is now planning to storm the casino. Trying to clean up his mess, Dutch rallies his biker gang and heads to the location. Outside the mansion, Levon is already silently eliminating guards with a suppressed pistol. He's also forced to use his knife. Sneaking inside, he throws a grenade into a room full of enemies. The explosion causes chaos among the guests. Levon fires at the guards with a rifle, displaying his professional training, but Dutch's biker gang has now arrived on site. Levon continues to gun down enemies. At that moment, Dutch bursts into the hall. The two former soldiers engage in a brutal but brief knife fight, ending with Dutch's defeat and death. Hearing Jenny's screams, Levon follows her voice, taking down the last of her captors along the way. Using a sledgehammer, he frees the girl. The foreman, now with his boss's rescued daughter, hops on a motorcycle and rides away, unaware that the father is watching from a distance. The gang leader makes a call to a colleague, but the man advises him not to escalate the situation. Levon got what he came for. There's no point in provoking him further and suffering more losses. Early in the morning, Levon brings a weary Jenny home, where she's greeted by her overjoyed family. Then, the former Marine and now construction foreman heads to visit his old friend Ganny, where his own daughter is waiting. The group gathers around the table to discuss what profession Levon should master next. And that's where the movie ends. Did you enjoy the film? Let us know in the comments below.